Close as you get. Right there.
Jury selection for the trial of Richard Mallory, Aileen Wuornos' first victim, takes place on January 13, 1992, 1 year after Aileen's confession to police.
This case centers on the murder of Clearwater store owner Richard Mallory. Investigators say he was Wuornos' first victim.
Even though Aileen confessed to multiple crimes, her first trial is only for the murder of her first victim, Richard Mallory.
There is network television and tabloid TV here. Also in the crowd are those who just want to know more about a woman alleged to have gone on a year-long killing spree.
Ms. Wuornos was only on trial for the Mallory murder, but the jury was presented with this very hyperbolized idea that this is this female serial killer. I'm Bryce Benjett. I'm a clinical professor of law with a background in death penalty law and claims of innocence.
This trial became a media circus. Aileen Wuornos had become this icon, this badass lesbian prostitute who killed Johns for money.
I don't know what she got so popular for. I mean, if it's the murderers or because she was a prostitute that started fighting back. I can still remember reading the clippings. Female serial killer, murder, mayhem. The headlines were very sensationalized. My name is Michelle Gillen. I'm a television journalist, and I investigated the case of Aileen Wuornos.
Wuornos' attorneys complain the media influence will make it impossible for them to find an impartial jury, but the judge is determined to try.
When a jury knows certain facts about a case, when they're watching the news, what is the story that they are being told by the press? And how does that affect their view of the case?
In Volusia County, for the first trial, when they did jury selection, they certainly had the usual opportunity to question prospective jurors. They could have sequestered them if it was that bad.
We're all human beings. We're all influenced by these things. And in Ms. Wuornos' case, where you've got the judge, the prosecutor, defense lawyer looking at this, that death is the foregone conclusion, it's hard to imagine that the jury wasn't coming at it the same way.
Ted actually enjoyed the attention he was getting from the media and the police.
They were following him everywhere, and that became almost comical because Ted would make fun of them. He'd make cookies for the cops. He'd knock on their windows. He would make coffee and take it to the surveillance vehicles. Ted would take on masks and false mustaches and wigs and everything to fool them.
He was playing games with us, trying to escape from us by running through the University of Washington libraries.
He went researching at the University of Washington Law Library and completely freaked out the whole law school. And I got a letter from the dean of the law school saying, I think it'd be better if Mr. Bundy used the King County Law Library and not come to the law school. As you know, we have many women students here. And I certainly don't blame the dean or the women students for being upset about it. But, you know, you would think the dean of a law school would at least believe in the presumption of innocence, but that's how bad it was back then. Back in those days, my phone number is actually listed, my home phone.
I had some people at my house, and I think there was a gathering of 3 or 4 people from the neighborhood, and the phone rang, and one of the women in the neighborhood answered the phone, and it was, hi, this is Ted Bundy, is John there? And that person left my house and never came back.
The media followed him right up to the door of my office, and he would laugh and wave at them. And
he enjoyed the attention.
Diabolical genius, deceptive, manipulative. Words authorities use to describe Theodore Bundy.
Massachusetts, Boston in particular, they're known as a sports town. And the Patriots are sacred to many people in this state. And so when you have Aaron Hernandez up for murder, there was concern on the side of the prosecution that they would have a hard time finding a jury that would be willing to convict him.
You know, Boston juries are notorious for letting people go, especially people with some celebrity. There were people showing up in his trial waiting for hours to get in so they could wear their 81 jerseys and show support. You know, there were women who were still weeping over him every time he walked into the room. It was just ridiculous to see the fan base that was so determined to insist his innocence.
It definitely was a highly anticipated trial. The courthouse, I don't think, had ever seen a trial that drew that much attention. It was a media circus. Odin Lloyd's family was there in numbers. Aaron Hernandez's family members also were there.
What made this case fascinating was you had two sisters. Shania Jenkins was the sister of Cheyenne Jenkins, Aaron Hernandez's girlfriend, who would later become his fiancée. They were close. Shania and Cheyenne were often together, and it was just a matter of time before Odin and Aaron were going to meet. And now here Shania was having to testify against her sister's fiancé for killing her boyfriend.
That obviously led to this really interesting dynamic. You had Cheyenne Jenkins and Shania Jenkins, the two sisters who were on absolute polar opposites of this murder trial. Cheyenne stood by her man, and Shania stood by Odin Lloyd's family.
My sister, because, you know, that was her boyfriend, took her boyfriend's family side.
All rise for the jury.
Of course, I was shocked.
Shania talked about that Cheyenne kept getting these phone calls and text messages.
How was she behaving after receiving these text messages?
Not normal.
Cheyenne has a big trash bag. That video does not look good for Cheyenne Jenkins.
As the trial begins, all eyes will be on Aaron Hernandez. He is charged with the first-degree murder of Odin Lloyd, whose body was found a half a mile away from the NFL star's home.
All rise for the jury.
As the trial began, you don't know what to expect. It's a whole different life. You're scrutinized. Mentally, it takes a toll. You have to develop a thick skin, and I completely have a thick skin. Not by choice, but I have a thick skin, and I'm just built this way now.